Good afternoon, everyone, and I would like to call to order our actually first budget hearing of 2022. And we have with us our county prosecutor, Melissa Schiffel, and her excellent staff. So you may begin.
Thank you, and I did put together a PowerPoint presentation for you. So thank you again for this opportunity to come and share with you the important business of the prosecutor's office and to kind of explain to you the requests that we've set forth for you. But before I get started, I want to make sure you all know everyone. Nicole Ford, our Executive Office Administrator, she is the number cruncher. I say, Nicole, I want to do this, and then 5 minutes later I say, no, I want to do this, and then she makes it happen when we submit the budget. So, so blessed to have her. And then you're also going to meet later on today a new Bhaskaranathan. She is a new attorney in our office, meaning she's been here a year, and she works in the juvenile, but is also going to be moving to the felony docket in January. Then you're going to meet Ashley Buxton in just a couple slides, who is actually one of our legal interns right now. And then both of you know Chief Mark Sleeper of the Criminal
Yes.
Division and Chief Chris Spence of the Civil Division.
Yes.
So,
welcome.
thank you. And you both know that I don't mince words, so I'm going to start off my budget presentation by being a little direct, and then we'll move through some of the slides after that. And on paper, our budget does look like it has increased by 18%, or that's what we are asking for you to consider. A lot of that increase is due to inter-county transfers in which there has been a pay disparity created when an individual leaves our office to go somewhere else within the county. The person that I'm speaking of directly about is Tyler Lane. And when he left to come and work for the commissioners, he was paid nearly $13,000 more than for a non-legal position than many of the attorneys in my office. Many of the attorneys who had years more experience than Tyler. And so through Nicole's strong fiscal management, we were able to overcome that pay disparity and raise the salaries of many of the attorneys in my office this year. And I did that without seeking a supplemental appropriation for 2022. But you do see the effect of that in our request for a 2023 budget to make sure that my staff, for which they're required to have a law degree and a law license to perform their job, is being paid at least equal to Tyler when he was taken from us. But then just recently, to give you another idea, one of my administrative staff was hired by the courtroom and, one of the judges for $2 more than what we are paying our staff. And that does create an issue in the office among staff when that happens. That's not reflected in our budget increase, but that's what we have to deal with, and that's what we have to do when we manage the money to retain our employees. Because public employment right now, as all of you know, is in crisis status, especially for prosecutors across the state. It's something that we routinely talk about. The lack of lawyers, one, going to law school, graduating, and the lack of lawyers willing to come and be prosecutors right now is at a crisis level that has never been seen in the state before. And that's in all 88 counties. So with that in mind, though, if you do look at our budget and drill it down even a little bit more, you will see that the operating guidance you give us of 3% increase, we come in well below that guidance. And then the additional staff that we've requested, this laptop is really small, or my eyes are really getting bad. But for the additional staff we've requested, if you boil it down, it comes down to just a little bit more than $300,000. That's what we're truly asking for when we ask for this additional staff. So one of the positions we've asked for is a vacant attorney position. Here I go. Where'd Sarah go? She was well already like walking around. She was like, do you want to sit? Do you want to stand? I was like, you know me, I'm not going to sit or stand. I'm going to walk. So one of the attorney positions that we've requested, though, is actually one you approved for 2022, but we haven't been able to fill it. So we just asked to carry that vacancy forward to 2023. Another one is a brand new position that we would hire into the office, and all things considered, maybe January 1. I don't know that. It is hard to attract prosecutors right now, so it couldn't be, but we put into our budget asking asking for an entire year's salary for that one position for an attorney. Another attorney position is for, we budgeted for it to begin in July or August. And that is actually for Ashley Buxton, who is a legal intern that we've made a conditional offer to join our office after she takes the bar in July. And so that's not a whole year attorney's position. That is a half year that we've already budgeted for. So it comes in substantially lower than the other ones. And then we've asked for money to begin a paid legal internship program in the summer. And that, I'll get to that in a little bit, but that truly will allow us to build our bench and to seize the opportunities like Ashley Buxton when they come along to bring that talent to our office, hopefully, and also to Delaware County. So that's kind of, you know, the direct reason as why I see we're here for the budget hearing. But now I kind of want to walk you through the reasoning behind our requests for the additional staff. And for me, I always come back to what are the values that we try and do, that we try and live by every single day in the office. And everyone that works in the prosecutor's office exists for the one person who needs us that day, that minute, that moment. And we meet the values of our office, and this is something that we actually recognize the staff who exemplify these 3 traits every year at a staff meeting. Gratitude. We are thankful to have a job. We are thankful to work, and we're thankful to be in Delaware County. But also community. We value ourselves as community partners and want to ensure that we are there for our community when we can be. But finally, excellence. We continue to set the bar in Central Ohio for fighting for our community and protecting our constituents, as well as representing our civil clients. And so those are our 3 values, and I'm going to walk through those because I think that's the best way to explain to you why we put together the budget request that we did. So the first one is gratitude. Look at all these cute little fine faces. This is some of our staff at the prosecutor's office. I don't know if you can see it. They are holding up signs that say thank you. And we are truly thankful to be in Delaware County, to do the work that we do, and we are truly thankful for all of your support. All of you have supported the prosecutor's office since the day that I got to the office. You have done that through your approving our budgets. You've done that by being friends, and you've done that by being mentors. And we are truly thankful to work for you and for all of your support that you have given us these three past years. So thank you on behalf of my staff. This next one's going to take a second to load, but it is a community. It's just photographs of all of the community events that we continue to participate in and continue to show that we are community partners as a prosecutor's office. And something that I know all of you know about this is the Summer Safety Scholars Program that I started last year, where we actually provide books or we suggest books, depending on the library, that are safety themed for our elementary kids to read during the summer. And then if they complete the summer reading program, they get a prize from the prosecutor's office. And we have been able to do that countywide, and we've done it by using drug forfeiture money. So that is not taxpayer money. That is money we have seized through our prosecution of drug traffickers, and we are reinvesting it into the prevention education of our youth, which we have to continue to do. And I actually want to give a plug in, and I hope that if you're available, you'll consider coming. A new program we started this year as part of the Summer Scholars Program is to allow our kids to be the author. And we asked them, write us a book and draw us pictures about what it means to be drug and alcohol free to you. And we actually are going to recognize 3 outstanding young authors in Delaware County on December 5th, I believe it's a Monday, yep, at 5 p.m. at Beanbag Books. We have printed some of their books. We're going to have a little book signing, and we are going to, not to spoil the prize for them, I doubt they're watching, we're going to give them a gift card to Beanbag Books too, and just kind of recognize their efforts. And it's just, you know, it's one of the blessings of this job is when you get to connect with youth and help guide them to making right decisions, especially when it comes to drugs and alcohol later on.
Where will it be?
Beanbag Books. It's the bookstore in Delaware.
Okay.
It used to be right off at Winter, and I know they just reopened. I think it's in the same place, but they just expanded. I can't remember. But it's in downtown Delaware.
Okay. Okay.
So please come if you want.
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock, yep. So when we look to the Delaware County Prosecutor's Office, and, you know, I can say, being here now for 3 years, that yes, I think I have an outstanding staff, and we do an outstanding job. But I will tell you, the rest of the state is watching what we do. And we set the bar in Central Ohio, if not the larger state of Ohio, for excellence in protecting our community and serving our civil clients. Routinely, people have commented to me about what we do in Delaware County, how well we do our job, and I know they say the same things to you too, because some of you have shared about it. But I want to walk through just some of the notable cases that you've seen from 2022. Jonathan Myers, this is our highway shooter on I-71, March of 2022, if you can believe that, just, what, let's see, 8 months ago. He brought I-71 traffic to a standstill by firing at bystanders on southbound traffic, and then firing and attempting to kill law enforcement on northbound traffic. And so I just love this little meme, even though that's a photo from the actual video. Someone put on top of it, they ran towards gunfire because our law enforcement did that day. Well, Jonathan Myers has pled guilty to several counts of attempted murder and attempted aggravated murder, and he's set for sentencing in December. So I've had many, many people comment to me like, well, had this happened somewhere else, we wouldn't even be having a, 2 years down the line, he'd still be in jail, they'd be talking about a plea, maybe going to trial, but no, this is 8 months. Justice has been served in Delaware County and will be done by the end of the year. Muwada Fisher, a sexual predator who is now serving 5 life sentences for sexually abusing a child. And he was convicted after a week-long jury trial recently. Layla Bordeaux, she's serving a 30-plus year sentence for killing an entire family from Powell on I-71 while she chose to drive impaired. Gone like a vapor. Convicted after a 2-week jury trial. And like I said, she's now serving 30-plus years, which is a maximum sentence for her crime she committed. And then finally, Emily Miller. She's a beloved homicide victim that has been with our office for many years. And we had a 2-week-long jury trial in August. Even when we are not victorious, if we were not in the only noble case, we still remain steadfast and fighting for victims, and will continue to fight for them like we did for Emily in the courtroom. We set the bar. So I thought I would share some of the feedback with you too. We often reach out to people who come into contact with our office just to kind of see, get their opinion on things, take a survey. And so we always send out a grand jury survey. And grand jury is ultimately the charging group that meets 1 day a week for 2 months to decide whether or not a case should move forward to the Court of Common Pleas or be formally charged. We have 1 prosecutor that currently does that. And so after each grand jury session, so every 2 months, we send out a survey. And this is some of the feedback we get. And I will tell you, this is honestly the feedback all the time. Is like, I can't believe this happened in Delaware County. Like, I had no idea. I know I like to always tell them too in the beginning, like, nobody drives with a valid driver's license, okay? So just accept that. Nobody on the road has a valid driver's license. Nobody is driving their own car either. So just kind of accept that. Trying to be funny. That's just something that happens though. In our grand jury, really, it's eye-opening experience for them. And so one of the comments we got recently was, this is one of the most interesting experiences I've ever had. As civilians, we don't really know what goes on out there, and my eyes were opened. As difficult as it was to hear, the cases regarding minors were presented with extreme care. Thank you to all the law enforcement, prosecutors, witnesses, and victims. Justice and truth shall always prevail. And I have a whole new appreciation for the work you do and what our law enforcement officers do. We don't actively solicit feedback from jurors, but they do reach out to us and share their feedback after a trial. And so recently, some of the ones that were shared that I thought important to bring to your attention were assistant prosecutors' passion and professionalism exceeded my expectations at every turn. firm but always fair in the application of justice. The second one says, during the introduction to my jury duty, this is actually one of my favorites, someone mentioned that a good jury was like seeing an ambulance driving down the road. It continues unnoticed until you know you need one, and then you become acutely aware that you need a good one. And this person, a juror from one of our trials, wrote, I feel the same can be said about the prosecutor's office, in that it's easy to take for granted. My experience over the last week has given me a heightened awareness of the need for a good prosecutor's office, and I am so appreciative that we have a good one here in Delaware County. Thank you sincerely for your leadership in this regard. And then another one, just actually from the Moana Fisher case. I just want to say thank you for all the hard work you do for victims or families and the community as a whole. I'm going to skip this ahead though. It says, after this case and the mental exhaustion I have experienced, I would love to retire as a one-time juror. That's someone who lived what we do every single day for 1 week and says, no more. I do not want to come back and ever do it again. And then also our victim services unit, which you know we have 2 full-time victim advocates. They also send out surveys at the end of every case. And just a couple of the comments said, no card will ever be big enough to express what the victim advocate means to them. And then also, I'm dealing with the pain I didn't even know existed, but I know it would be worse if I didn't have you, our advocates, by my side through everything. What our victim advocates do is so much more than gather information from victims. They truly are their friends, their confidants throughout the criminal process, and they take on many of the anxiety and the emotions that these victims carry with them throughout the case and even beyond. Even as prosecutors, we still have victims that we talk to routinely after the case is over. So our criminal team always gets the glory, but we can't forget our civil division because they are routinely called upon by other county prosecutors. If you can believe it, there's like, hey, Melissa, I need to talk to Chris Betts. Like, I know he has done this for 20 years and he has worked with the Board of Elections. Can I please talk to him about an issue? I mean, that has happened probably at least 8 times this year. And that just tells you the excellence of our civil division, especially their chief and Chris, who often is relied upon for their experience and their institutional knowledge. But also the rest of the entire team, actively recruited by private law firms to come and join them. And they can pay a lot more, but they haven't left yet, so I think that's good. Also other county offices and state agencies as well. So the last thing I added in here though is, and many of you, just like many of you I know, we are asked to serve on statewide task forces quite frequently. And I think that is a testament to the excellence of our office and our reputation among the state to have a seat at that table. But the benefit is that that's a seat at the table for Delaware County to continue to be on those boards. For example, I serve on the Ohio Police Community Collaborative Board, where we are setting standards for law enforcement to be the best that they can in the state of Ohio. We were recently asked to be on the Indigent Defense Task Force, which I know you guys are all probably acutely aware because the County Commissioners Association has been kind of spearheading that a little bit. And then we were just asked to serve on a crisis intervention that is a statewide task force as well. And so all of those things together, I'm just really proud of my team and the excellent work that we do. So excellence, though, it comes with a price. And I've asked Chief Mark Sleeper to come up here and to share with you something from our special prosecutor, Corey Go.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm reading this on behalf of Corey Go, who's been our special victims prosecutor for the last 2 years. Primarily, his job responsibilities have been handling our sexual assault cases involving child victims. He's also handled some child pornography cases. And he also somehow became our mall shooting prosecutor when we had a couple of those incidents at the Polaris Mall. But he had this to say. So he said, special victims cases, specifically those involving child sexual assaults, are the most difficult cases we work on as prosecutors. Usually the stakes are the highest they can be because the defendants are facing possible life sentences. They're also the most time-intensive and time-sensitive because of the seriousness of the conduct and the amount of time it takes to get a child ready to talk in court about the worst things that ever happened to them in a room full of strangers. Prosecutors tend to take on the stress, anxiety, and feelings of our victims during the pendency of a criminal case. And in special victims cases, those feelings weigh even more heavily on the prosecutors assigned to them. We take on the pressure of success. We also take on the emotions of having to tell these heinous stories. We take on some of the burdens of our victims to try and get them through these difficult legal battles. Corey says that I've been the special victims prosecutor for just about 2 years now. I've handled nearly 100 cases during that time and usually have 10 to 20 pending at any one time. After 2 years, I can say that the burdens described above weigh you down after working on these cases. You take the burdens and you times those by the amount of cases you have, and you quickly realize that sometimes it's overwhelming. When we do succeed, which I'm proud to say has been the norm over the last 2 years, we tend to celebrate those victories with our victims and their families. Unfortunately, those victories tend to be short-lived. Because of the amount of cases we have pending, we have to move on to the next case quickly after one finishes. Being able to spread out these types of cases not only makes sure that the victims are getting the attention they need, but also makes sure prosecutors like myself don't get buried in the burdens of these types of cases. And so one of the things that we're here to talk about today is the importance of being able to both hire people with experience who are able to handle these tough cases, but also be able to try to retain those that we're able to get in to be in those kinds of positions. And so we've been very, very lucky to have Corey serve in that role for the last 2 years.
Yeah, thank you.
And I think it was 2 years ago I came and asked you for funding for Corey's position, and you recognized the need and the importance of having a special victims prosecutor. And I hope that statement allows you to understand that the return on your investment is something that cannot ever be measured financially, because Corey has served Delaware County well and protected countless victims that came to him and countless victims who would have been victims had it not been Corey putting their predators in prison. Let me get my PowerPoint. So if you listen to what the words of Corey said, avoiding burnout is the #1 reason we have asked for additional staff. The #1 reason. Jennifer, is it able to get back on the screen? And to give you an idea, when we have an attorney on the criminal docket that is out, now, mind you, we have 6 attorneys, 3 for each courtroom on the criminal docket. When one of them is out, either for extended leave, maybe it's vacation, maybe it's unplanned FMLA, or something like that, their work has to be absorbed by everybody else, and everybody else is already at capacity. So imagine having your workload then increased drastically for an unknown amount of time when you're barely getting through your cases every single day and every single week. Our criminal prosecutors get new cases every single week. They have jury trials set on Tuesday and Thursday every single week, except for during the holidays. Multiple jury trials that they have to prepare and try and resolve will be prepared to go to trial every single week. They are at capacity. And when they need to take on additional work, burnout is a real threat to the continued excellence of the prosecutor's office. This year alone, we lost 5 attorneys to more money and less stress. I think Tyler's less stressed, but I can't say for sure. But we have. You were taking him out of the equation. And what also goes kind of unnoticed in it is that leadership absorbs many of the tasks because the rest of the staff is already performing at maximum capacity. And so when you look at Mulata Fisher, who is down here, an individual serving 5 life sentences, he was prosecuted by Corey Go, who you heard from just a moment ago. And Corey has asked for a break. He needs a break from doing those cases day in and day out. And so we are going to permit him to move to the civil division in January of next year. We have an opening for a special victims prosecutor. We may actually have a lead on a very experienced one that we're hoping to continue those conversations up to attract them here. But I will tell you, we have a reputation for not being competitive in wages. So when we are trying to attract this experienced person from a county down south, their first question always is like, well, what can you pay me? Because I've heard that you don't pay as much. But it is what it is. And then if you talk about Layla Bordeaux, the individual who killed the family when she was driving impaired, that prosecutor has lived and breathed that case the minute the 911 or the police dispatch came in. Peyton Thompson, she went to the crime scene and she saw that case through the entire finality, including the sentence. It was a 2-year ordeal. She's asked for a break. And so she will be moving to grand jury. And we have to be able to do that. We have to be able to pivot to keep this talent in our office. But it creates openings and it also exemplifies the need for additional staff that we've requested. And like I said, leadership absorbs many tasks because the rest of the staff is already at capacity. And we should, right? Leadership should take on some of the hard cases and some of the difficult cases. But what that means is that individuals like Mark Sleeper, who also drops everything at, when an emergency comes in, like our PAL staffing at an assisted living 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago. He had to drop everything that he was doing to be able to tend to that. And then also, he's prepping a homicide trial. He also has me chirping in his ear about management and leadership things that I need him to do, as well as maintaining, the motivation and the staff as we see, through some of these changes. It means that, like, Mark Sleeper, he can't take a break. I mean, he's absorbing things from the staff who are already at capacity. And it's the same for any serious case that comes down the line. And that's why we are asking for additional staff. Now, also, I want to talk about Chris for a little while because Chris is the supervisor of the civil division, yet he has one of the highest caseloads of that team. His own list of civil clients, which include large township, it includes several county agencies, but yet I still expect him to perform vital management and leadership tasks while doing a very high caseload. And so that's why we're asking for additional staff, is so that I can help elevate my leadership team and spread the work out among more staff members to avoid burnout. As the county grows and the population increases, I don't need to tell you guys this, but so do the demands from our civil clients. I was just out at a meeting. There were 4 of us from the civil division on Monday, and it's a public meeting, so I can say this. Talking to Berlin Township, and I literally said to them, it's no longer the big 3 townships. It's the big 4, and Berlin, you're number 4. So this caseload is increasing for our civil clients. And who knows the impact of what Intel is going to be, but I know you 2 were there yesterday. I was listening to Engineer Bosman talking about how 50 minutes, like how the percentage of population in Delaware County that will be close to Intel. This is why I'm not an engineer, because I can't explain it very well. But that will impact our civil division. And the Berlin Business Park, Berlin Township, that already is impacting them. And so we have traditionally done more with less. Nicole's going to hand out a paper to you. I just put this together, honestly, the last 2 days after we were looking at some of the information coming in from the wage study from Clemens Nelson. I picked the top 3 counties that they had listed, and I just went to their website to say, hey, well, okay, if we have comparable wages, what is their staff? What does their staff look like? And you can look at that and see. We have 6 criminal felony attorneys, a grand jury prosecutor, and then if you look down at like the Butler County Prosecutor's Office, the Claremont County Prosecutor's Office, the Warren County Prosecutor's Office, they all have almost double the assistant prosecutors in the criminal divisions that we have. And I personally know that Warren County has very comparable case numbers to us, extremely similar. And everyone has way more victim advocates than we do too. And then also the civil attorneys are about comparable, and some of the juvenile prosecutors, I tried to note in there when they do JFS cases because we no longer do those, but still. You can look at this and the surrounding counties that Clemens Nelson's chose for the wage study and see that we have traditionally done more with less. But that time is coming to an end, and that is why I've asked for the additional staff. I think it's absolutely vital to keep my staff from burning out and to maintain the level of excellence that we do every single day. Now, moving on to kind of the legal internship program. Identifying potential team members and building our bench is key to maintaining excellence in our organization now and in the future. It is the #1 reason for requesting the $35,000 to start our paid summer internship program. And so I want you to meet a new Bass Granavin, I'm practicing, because she actually interned at the Franklin County Prosecutor's Office, and now she works for us. Yay. To kind of give you, I've asked her and Mark Fowler, they led the charge and kind of informally led our internship program this past summer, and that was in conjunction with the municipal court, actually. And so in addition to getting courtroom experience, in addition to doing in-house experience with us, they also got to go do some fun things like go to the Ohio Supreme Court and hear an oral argument, go to the State House and see how that works. So, I know.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, welcome.
Thank you, Melissa, for introducing me. So I've been with Delaware for about a year, and I was an intern at Franklin County. So my experience at Franklin County was most stuff we did was discovery. So I actually lucked out and got an interesting opportunity because I was able to get credits. I did juvenile traffic court while I was there, and while we are there, we do get paid for it, but most of our work is discovery, and which brings me to Delaware County. So something that's super different from Franklin County to Delaware County is the fact that it's not just about discovery. You actually get to do attorney work. We have our interns researching for attorneys, helping out with trial stuff, and I know you'll be hearing from Ashley. Ashley actually did a juvenile trial with me. She helped prep a witness for that. And we have interns participating in reviewing cases in juvenile as well. So they're taking on like actual attorney work. They're getting experiences that honestly I didn't really get in Franklin County. I mean, yes, we have discovery to do, and that's part of a prosecutor's workload, but there's more to being a prosecutor than discovery. And in the civil division, so Mark Fowler, who is the other coordinator, as well. He gets them involved in meetings and different meetings around counties. And something we've done together is help set up tours. I've taken the interns out to the Juvenile Detention Center in Marysville. I've set up the BCI London tour out there with the lab. And there's various other tours we set them up with, and they get to experience all the different agencies we get involved with. So I do think it's very important for them to get paid, and especially if they're doing attorney work, and they should be able to get paid for that, because we had an intern in our office, and he was great. But one of the reasons he didn't come back is you're going to law school. Law school is expensive. He's like, I would love to come back, but I'm not getting paid. So he's like, I'm gonna try at Franklin County. I mean, we're losing interns because we're not able to compensate them for work that, attorneys do as well. And I know you'll hear from Ashley and her experience, and I think we do a lot for our interns to make sure they're not just sitting around, not just watching trials, they're actually learning. And something I love about our office is we have an open door policy. These interns get to go walk into a prosecutor's office, learn about their cases, learn about what's going on, and those prosecutors get them involved. I think one of our interns right now, started off with one of our prosecutors, Jacqueline, and now has moved on to Joel. and just learning. I mean, and that's a huge thing as a law student, as an intern, you're learning so you can be a better prosecutor. And something that's great for our office is interns like that we'll hire back on. I know one of the juvenile prosecutors I work with, Evan was an intern, he was hired back on, and now Ashley, who's been with our office for a few semesters now, is also going to be hired on. So I would really hope that you guys will consider to help compensate for all the work that they do, and they do work really hard in our office. Thank you.
I have to brag about
Thank you.
for 1 second. Don't sit down yet. Okay. So Anu is starting. You're in her second year, right, of law practice, and she has been in our juvenile division. But since we have vacancies on the felony docket, she and her cohort Evan have really set themselves apart and shown that they are ready, and I think they're willing to take on the responsibility of prosecuting adult felonies. And so they will be both transitioning there. Anu and her husband actually live in Powell. They just closed on a house that I swear took like 2 years to build, but it's right by the high school. I remember that. So they finally closed though, and she moved in. And so not only is she working in Delaware County, she lives in Delaware County, and she's invested in our community. And I always tell her routinely, like, I see a lot of Melissa Schiffel 15 years ago and Anu, and what she wants to ultimately do is lead a special victims unit in Delaware County. And so we are continuing to invest in her any way that we can so that she can do that, because she will be amazing.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
You think she's better than you?
I mean, 15 years ago, I mean, she definitely like knows how to bite her tongue better than I did then or now. So yeah, maybe. But then also, I'd like to introduce you to Ashley Buxton. She's well, I'll let you tell her. I'll let her tell you. She is currently a legal intern in our office that we did not pay until recently. Because Nicole was able to manage the money a little bit, but we couldn't a little bit.
Welcome.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Ashley Buxton. I am currently a third-year law student at The Ohio State University Moritz College of Law, and I will graduate in May, which is very exciting. 2022, though, has been a very memorable year for me, full of lots of great memories and experiences. I actually started off my year with getting married to my now husband. And then shortly after that, I did begin school again, and I started my experience in my internship with the Delaware County Prosecutor's Office. So I found the internship to be rewarding and valuable because I was able to get firsthand experience on what it looked like to be a prosecutor, which I'd never been able to do before. And the internship provided me with the opportunity to work on research for potential and ongoing litigation and developments in legislation. I was also able to witness court proceedings and learn effective litigation strategies. At the conclusion of my second year in law school, I was given the opportunity to stay on with the prosecutor's office in the summer, which I was extremely grateful for. And my experience was enhanced further when I was able to obtain my legal intern license, which allows me the opportunity to be able to help Anu, and Anu helped me, and I was able to help work on some hearings with her in the juvenile department as well as a trial, which was a very exciting experience. And many of my peers are not able to attain as much of an immersive experience as I have been able to do in this office, and I am very grateful for that. And before I entered my final year at law school, my husband and I actually bought a house in Delaware, and Melissa offered for me to stay on after my internship, and she's invited me, as she has said, to join the team after I graduate and pass the bar. And this internship experience was invaluable to me as it solidified what I wanted to do once I graduate and become an attorney, and has also helped shape where my husband and I chose to buy our first house. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ashley.
Wow, thank you very much.
And, you know, the story of Ashley Buxton is only as great as it is because she is Ashley Buxton, and she has earned absolutely everything that she has done in this office and the responsibility, and has proven herself to be a worthy candidate that we need in the office when she is finished. And so that's why, and you all know, I'm preaching to the choir about when you find a good person to join your team, you can't wait to act. You have to act then. And that's why we did, so that nobody else steals her, hopefully, and she does come back next year because she loves us. But I'm confident that she will. And I kind of just highlighted this, but we asked for the legal internship funding in our budget because recruiting actually started 2 months ago. Actually, Tyler, Chris, myself, and Evan went to the Ohio Northern Law School, my alma mater, for a recruiting event. We met several talented lawyers who would love to come and join the office in the summer, but recruiting people involves, well, do you pay? I don't know yet. Ask me in January, which is fine. But that's why we have asked for that funding now, as opposed to waiting and coming back for a supplemental appropriation, because we need to be able to give the expectation to people who are interested in interning in our office to whether or not they will get paid and what that would look like. You do seem like the budget, we did break it down for 2 different levels of compensation. One is for a certified legal intern. They actually have a certificate from the Ohio Supreme Court. They're all have finished their 2nd year. And that certificate from the Supreme Court says, yes, you can go into court under the direct supervision of an attorney. And that really allows them, and Ashley, that's what Ashley was talking about, the experience in the courtroom to learn firsthand what it is to actually be standing in front of a judge and talking, not just sitting in the office, talking in front of a judge. And then also legal interns who don't have their certificate, maybe because they're a first year or they didn't get one in a timely fashion, they're still valuable to our office because they can research, they can write, they can help prepare trials, they can listen to jail phone calls, all of those things. And so we did submit a different pay rate for them because they can't go into court. So, we are doing our part to maintain costs and do more with less. As you all know, the Victim Services Grant was cut by 40% the last 2 years by the federal government. We were able to absorb that cost last year for our victim services team, but we were not able to do that this year, and so you do see an increase in their budget. So when we reallocated that funding last year, we could not do it in 2023, but we still needed to request the additional funds to make up the difference for our victim advocates. And if you recall, we have 2 victim advocates and 1 civil protection order specialist. And if you look at the comparison of the other counties, most of them have double, if not triple, what we have to do the same job. Also, substantial vacation payouts due to losing employees have used a lot of the funds that we would return to you normally at the end of the year. We've paid roughly $36,000 out this year to employees we have lost, if you want to put a figure on it. And so that's money that you can't really budget for because you hope nobody leaves, right? But yet it is taken out of our salary and will not be able to be returned to you. We're still understaffed. We've not replaced a major crimes prosecutor, a drug prosecutor, a grand jury prosecutor, and we still have a vacant attorney position that we funded last budget that is unfilled, but we've asked to keep that position still potentially able to be filled in 2023. So that's all I have, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Quite a presentation, thank you, thank you. Boy, very, very impressive. And then as I mentioned before too, what you have given us ahead of time to look over was really helpful, very, very much so.
Thank you, Nicole.
Questions? Oh, yeah, Nicole, thank you.
I don't know if I have any questions right now. I thought, excellent president. I apologize for being a little late. I was in a Zoom call, where I had to leave early to get here, but I do apologize for being a tad late. Your presentation was outstanding, and I do need to do a little digesting. I may call you later,
Sure,
but I'm not sure I'm really prepared to ask any additional questions at this point.
you know how to find me.
I do.
Yeah, thank you. Again, very good presentation, and I know you do really important stuff, and you do an outstanding job. I think everyone really recognizes that and really appreciates it. I don't have any specific questions other than, can we get some caseload data, just for comparison purposes and that sort of thing?
So I can give you caseload data, but it's a little skewed right now because we have moved to the matrix system. And so the matrix system has just been implemented this year. So some of the data we have to go from there, some of the data we have to gather from CMS. So I can give you that caseload data if you want number of criminal cases, but here's my caveat. That will show you 5% of the picture because the amount of time and attention that attorneys have to devote for one rape case to one drug possession is not going to be found in that data. So if you just look at the fact that the prosecutor's office had 700 cases last year, they're gonna have 700 cases this year, the workload could still be tripled because there is an increase in violent crime or an increase in rape cases, or because our staff went from 6 to 4 attorneys for 3 months. So yes, I'm happy to provide that, but just with
And
the caveat.
over a period of years, not just current. And if you can break them down any way that adjusts for the complexity of the cases, that's, again, is very.
I don't know that we can
No, so not only, the numbers we can give you are the amount of cases that were opened this year. That is not going to represent a case that came in December of '21 that we've been working on the entire year of 2022. That's not going to represent a lot of the cases that came on possibly in 2019, 2020, 2021 that we are still going through. It's also not going to account for any violations that come in. That's a case that has been closed and a case that we are still actively working on every time that individual gets violated. So then, just like Melissa said, I mean, we can give you a number, but it's not going to give you an idea of what is being worked on in the office every day. It's only going to be the amount of cases that have come into us this year. It's not going to be the amount of cases we are working on. And that, unfortunately, is a very difficult number even if you ask the clerk of courts to provide something like that, it would be the same thing. They're just going to be able to give you a number of how many cases were opened in 2022. It's not going to be what is still actively happening. So we can, but just take that with a grain of salt.
And I can't do that for our civil team. We have Matrix, thank you for providing the funding for that. It is still, it's imperative that our civil clients use it, and we are working with them to get them up to speed on it, because then that will enable us to better have a picture of what our civil team is doing. I mean, right now, they can spend 2 hours on the phone with the client, and that's not something Matrix is gonna show, right? But yet, they're still doing their job, and that's maybe 2 hours that they didn't have to spend last year because there was a business partner going on. So, if that makes sense.
One other question, the DTAC, the Delinquent Tax Fund,
Yes.
you're actually proposing to spend less next year in that fund. What's going on with that fund? I don't know if you have any details.
Do you want to talk?
Sure.
Okay. So the delinquent tax fund, it is, if you guys are familiar kind of like with FOJ or law enforcement trust funds, there are guidelines for what you can spend it on. We are spending the max that we feel like is reasonable.
We can legally justify to the state auditor should they look at our DTAC expenditures.
So
Very conservative compared to some other people.
our civil department, we get the delinquent tax from the foreclosures and that kind of thing. We have, a lot of them will look over them, but we have one, Chris Betts is primarily, his focus is handling those. And also we have a legal admin that's part-time and she assists with those. So we do have them paid a portion out of those delinquent tax, and then the other civil attorneys that don't do as much with them, a smaller portion. But we cannot justify paying all of our civil department out of that.
We can't pay for trainings out of that. We can't
Sure,
pay for office equipment out of it. It literally.
But I
has
was
to
just,
be up.
just basically what I was saying, what changed between 22 and 23, the allocation?
It was just, it was a reevaluation of what we think is reasonable to use those funds for.
If there was a way to give some of it back to it, but I don't think there's a way to justify that. Someone else probably would have what you're saying, but.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Noted. Okay. And I have no questions. Being married to a former prosecutor, I understand, I mean, I've lived through a lot of this stuff, so just really, really appreciate the excellence that You do. Thank you. And thank you for the thoroughness that you've given us. So we don't have anything, no other questions, then we will be in recess until 1:30 tomorrow afternoon, which I believe is the 17th?
Correct. No,
Correct.
tomorrow's the 18th.
Okay.
18th.
November 17th.
Tomorrow's the 18th.
Tomorrow's the 18th.
Tomorrow's the 18th?
Yes.
Oh, my gosh, time flies. Okay. Tomorrow's the 18th, then. We'll be in recess till 1:30 tomorrow, November
Thank you.
18th.